So, 3 weeks ago, I finally got to go to a movie theater to see a horror movie again for the first time since I think It Part 2 came out. There might have been one in the middle there, but I don't think so. And the movie was The Black Phone, starring Ethan Hawke and some other people. Man, this movie is wild. This stands out to me in another film, just like It Part 1, actually, on that same topic. A horror movie where the advertising for it was god-awful. Hilariously bad. It was one of the worst trailers I've ever seen for a movie that I found out later to actually have a fairly significant amount of effort put into it, which is insane. I thought it was filmed on a cell phone or a hand camera just in somebody's backyard, and it was just going to be some terrible YouTube movie, that somebody had just paid for advertising for on YouTube. But that actually was not the case, and I didn't realize that until fucking Ethan Hawke, of all people, shows up. And it just goes, this kid's walking, right? And we've got super generic music, and I'll get into the score later on, but very uninspired, very typical Blumhouse. At least it's like a modicum of quality score. But just generic horror movie music starts playing. If I had to guess, it was either like a Rhodes organ thrown through a pitcher or something, or like a violin. That. That's that stupid shit. Fucking horrible. But this kid's walking and he sees a black van, and this movie has to take place in the past. It takes place in like Stephen King time, which is like vaguely the 1950s, 60s to vaguely the 1970s, 80s. It's just like that period of time that my dad was alive and still a young person, and I hadn't been born yet as a 34-year-old man now. So it's a back then, nothing to get in the way of good storytelling or to make the writer have to think about new versions of plots. Just good old fashioned. We've done this a million times before. Here you go. No cell phones, no video cameras, no yard to yard surveillance. As a matter of fact, kids stopped getting kidnapped in 1991 with the advent of the first cell phone camera. It's just a true fact. Kids can't get kidnapped anymore. Serial killers do not exist. Fucking stupid shit. So, of course, you go back in time, everybody's wearing band shirts and stuff, but the kid's walking and he sees a black van sitting there, and a dude falls to the side of it and drops groceries. Oh, can you help me? And when he stands up, No, that's not how it happens. That's what happens in the movie. It changes because in the fucking advertisement, it's dumb as shit. The kid's just walking, and then Ethan Hawke pops up out of nowhere wearing like a cape or some shit. And I was like, that's not real. This is a joke. But it wasn't.
Would you like to see a magic trick?
Yeah.
But the movie follows some kid, I think his name's Finney, and his sister who cusses a lot, and some other stuff, and other characters are there. Ethan Hawke and Finney are all you really need to care about. They're most of the movie. There's some side characters that are moderately interesting, and this movie is just like a chocolate chip cookie if the chips were just random other bullshit happening, and the cookie was typical bad Joe Hill writing. Joe Hill wrote the story that this is based on. It's from his Black Phone and Other Stories collection from at some point in the past. I don't know. I don't care. If it's Black Phone and Other Stories, then Black Phone is going to be the best story in that collection. And holy shit. I read that this movie follows the story like pretty closely, which I'm not surprised. It's typical bullshit. Anyway, there's kids getting kidnapped. The film starts off getting ready to tell other stories. I will say that. It starts off with at least a 6 minute sequence of the first kidnapping, which is this Asian American kid. I can't remember his name. Good looking kid, maybe 16, 17 years old, I think. I can't remember, but he plays baseball and he's a pitcher and he's tall and athletic. So it's like, oh, okay, whoever's kidnapping people is going to be able to take down a tall, athletic, popular person who generally shouldn't be alone and can fight back. I guess that's supposed to be the inference. He gets kidnapped in like 2 seconds, but they never show how. He just starts walking toward the black van, and every time it happens, the soundtrack just starts going, and it slows down. There are some mildly interesting things that they do instead of showing any action that's relevant to the plot for half of this film, which are to play these stock footage videos, interspliced stock footage videos of people in this general time period, 1970 something, back in 1970 something. And those just get like interspliced and cut, and they make the old 8mm sprocket noise. If you've ever seen the introduction to, I think, 8mm, it's that. But, as a major device in the film. I think later on it's explained that that's the little girl's premonitions and stuff, but I can't fucking remember. Anyway, so that just never really comes up again. He ends it with, he talks to the Finney, he goes, "You got one hell of an arm, Finney." And it zooms up on his face. You've got one hell of an arm. Okay, cool. So the Chekhov in me is like, all right, that was literally the last thing this kid said before he's going to probably die. So Finney at some point is going to throw a ball or something at somebody really hard, and that's probably going to be like the penultimate action scene at the end of the movie. Spoiler. It never fucking happens. It comes up once. The guy says it. Hey, we're at the right part of the movie, but the kid doesn't fucking throw anything, which is amazing. Oh my gosh. So after that is additional bullshit. We're introduced to this little Latino kid. He is fucking like Ralph Macchio Karate Kid beating the absolute dog shit out of some bully. And you're like, all right, well, I really like this kid. Finney is boring as fuck. Finney's a sad boy. This kid is his best friend, sort of, that he tutors, because I think the kid is inferred to have dyslexia, which makes reading hard for him. So he has trouble in school, but he doesn't have trouble beating the ever-living shit out of kids that are like twice his height. And I can imagine just in the book, it's just like, it was probably played as like, that kid's name was, I'm just going to call him Ralph. That kid's name was Ralph, and he was small, but he never took any shit. You got to do that Stephen King voice. I always hear it when I read Joe Hill's writing too. Like he's just trying to do his dad's best impression. Well, every time I saw Ralph, he was small as a snail, but he'd crawl on a leaf twice his size and tear it off the tree. But of course, when it hit the ground in a pool of blood, a splash that crashed onto all the kids around them, causing them to erupt into gasps. Some bullshit like that. Anyway, that kid is there, but he scares off some bullies, and then he fucking gets kidnapped and disappears. That makes everybody suspicious of Finney / his sister, which makes no fucking sense. Nobody has any idea. This is ostensibly like a small town. I don't know. The movie's extremely vague on all the details, which is the only way that this film can keep going, because this kid is clearly impoverished, Latino, and a violent fighting kid. He gets abducted in the back alley of a Kroger, like a grocery store shipping dock, which he's walking through for no ostensible reason. It makes no sense. And our Ethan Hawke kidnapper guy, I can't remember what the fuck they call him. The grabber. Fucking lame. The grabber is just in this fucking dock and stuff. So I'm like, all right, hey, maybe they're just like, and they do the thing. The screen starts going wonky. Like, all right, this kid's kidnapped. This kid's fucking dead. Whatever. Shit happens. Maybe Ethan Hawke's character is magic and can like sense when a kid is going to get be vulnerable to kidnapping. No, just it's just not. This is not the fucking case. It's just never brought up how he picks kids or like where he's even at. So like, I mean, and this kid is in, it's a gigantic parking lot, like literally the full size parking lot behind a grocery store, which you've ever worked at one. There's like 7 shipping bays to his right, which is enough room. Yeah, and there's enough room for semi trucks to come in and pull through at all times of the day. Also, the kid is going there directly after school. That shipping bay should be full of people preparing for afternoon restock. Like, if you've worked at a grocery store on a school day at 2 or 3 p.m., that fucking shipping bay is going to be a super highway, especially if it's a small town and that's the only grocery store. Everybody is going to be making deliveries into there at that time. All the fresh food comes in the AM. And your dry shit comes from in the middle of the afternoon before the parking lot gets full of all the people shopping on their way home from work. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know Joe Hill wrote it, and he was raised by the half-billionaire king of literature. So the possibility of him ever having been behind a Kroger is slim to none. I get it. He's rich. He doesn't know better, but ye gods, how in the fuck? There's not even any things there. And they say that he was going to the grocery store. So he's like going to cut through. Maybe it was the next store over. Maybe it was an abandoned Sears in 1985, 1976. It was a Sears parking lot with nobody in it in 1976. Oh my God. But it's completely empty. And for some reason, the grabber is parked back there like it's a child superhighway. Makes no sense, but it just happens. And I know it's like a 3-second scene, but like it really captures just how fucking bullshit this whole movie is. As an aside, really quickly, I will say I enjoyed a lot of the performances. There was a lot of heart to the film. Blumhouse probably just took a piece of shit and sprayed gold on it until you couldn't flick through the paint. Shout out to them. The sound design, pretty okay, pretty good. The editing, solid. Shot composition, I mean, what do you really think they're gonna get? So this is the first like half hour of the movie too, are these other abductions and stuff. And then of course, I don't know, there's all kinds of shit going on at Finney's home. If it seems like I'm all over the place, it's because this movie is all over the place as well. Tonally, plot-wise, it's just sloppy. It's just sloppily written from start to finish. The film is long. I think it's like 1:40, and it could definitely have been cut down. It might even be pushing 2 hours. It does not have that much content in it. There's a lot of conversations that are pointless between people. There's a lot of talking, a lot of speculation, and I'll just get into it. But functionally speaking, the movie's pacing is not great, and it really takes about half an hour to get into the movie, which is Finney in the basement. So he gets captured. Fucking Ethan Hawke shows up, drops his groceries, and like suffocates him with spray paint in a face mask, which I think you could have just fucking strangled the kid. I think you'd be dead. I don't know. I've never done spray paint as a drug. I know it wrecks you, but from what I remember being a crime and courts reporter, we had this one guy in Charleston, West Virginia, who was a spray paint addict, and he was a recurring offender and was an incredibly, not violent necessarily, but like a destructive force when he was on spray paint. It was not very sedating to him. It turned him into an insane person who would just mumble fuck around and like batter things. Not necessarily people, just shit. Like usually he would get arrested for kicking a mailbox to pieces or going inside of a public building and then just disassembling like a bookshelf with his bare hands and his forehead. Insane shit like that. So it's definitely not the drug I would think, but I'm pretty sure it's fucking spray paint. I don't know what else it could be that wouldn't just kill the kid. I mean, I guess if it's something like air duster, which I don't know if they had that in the 1970s, that's a mild sedative, but it only lasts for like 60 minutes or so, and whatever it is, it's an aerosol can with a spray cap on top. And it's never really explained again, and it should be. The guy has balloons, and balloons have helium in them. I don't think it's helium. Maybe it is. I think that would kill the kid, and helium doesn't come in an aerosol can. I'm not sure. And that just drives me nuts because I want to know. Like, that's one of the most important things about a serial killer. Just if you're out there in the world, and I know I got a lot of true crime geeks, the way that somebody absconds with people is one of the most important aspects of their character as a serial killer. And it's one of the most important things in proving that a person was a serial killer in court is the method of abduction. You're literally describing the crime at hand. Like, I know you want to get to the juicy parts, but like also with the pacing in this, maybe you don't, but just kind of describe it. It needs to be a better overall thing. Having balloons that had some sort of like ether in them or something that he could pop in people's faces. They did that in Batman and it was cool. So he abducts this kid. He takes him to this reinforced concrete basement with a black phone on the wall. Hey, it's the black phone. The basement's layout makes no sense. It is a confusing, idiotic mess of a cell that makes no sense. It is so nonsensical that they have to have a diegetic conversation in the story about how the kid's like, I'm going to scream. And the guy's like, you can scream all you want. Nobody can hear you. Half the time, Ethan Hawke is doing like a Michael Jackson impression, which I don't know if is intentional or just like a Freudian slip type deal, but it is pretty noticeable when he's got his happy mask on. There's also this mask that Ethan Hawke's character wears, which you're first really introduced to in this scene. It is a 4-piece mask, 3-piece. It's got 2 pieces that are on the top and bottom each time, or sometimes. There's like an over the eyes piece and a mouth piece, and there's 2 mouthpieces, one that smiles and one that frowns. And he switches them out depending on his mood. Okay, cool. I've seen that before. I am familiar with, yet again, another Batman reference, the villain Two-Face. And I think there's other villains that did that too, and they switch out their happy and sad. So you got a Janus thing going on. We can just call it Janus, all right? It's a trope that's literally as old as ancient Greece. So we've got this Janus mask type thing going on, and man, he could have had something, and it's never explained at all. Not even like to the side, like where he like talks about something or there's any evidence in the basement. It's also extremely suggested very strongly that the first kid he killed was probably the East Asian kid from the first scene, because nobody else. Okay, so anyway, the black phone's on the wall. He tells him he's in the basement. The kid starts getting calls on the black phone because, I don't know, he's got The Shining, whatever the fuck. It's Joe Hill's version of The Shining. He's got the shine to him. So he can hear the black phone call. And then when he answers it, it's the dead kids, and they always forget who they are. But then they're like, oh, this is what happened to me while I was in the basement, and blah, 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 blah. He talks to like 4 or 5 of them. Doesn't matter. The phone sometimes swells and shrinks like it's breathing on the wall. That's never gone into. I don't know what's wrong with the phone. Ethan Hawke says he heard the phone ring when he was a kid, but when he answered it, no one was there. And the kid said that maybe he did hear somebody, but also that's never gone into. There's a lot of wasted time to make that phone more interesting, and it never is. It just never is used. The basement's layout is confusing. There's a bed. The bed looks directly at the stairs. The stairs go up to a normal house upstairs where the grabber lives. To the right of the stairs, as you're looking at them, is a bizarre hallway construction. This hallway goes to the right, and it's very skinny and tiled, and then it cuts to the right after that, and there is a solitary toilet and 5 or 6 stacks of old carpet. I guess you can infer that the old carpets are carpets that guy collects so that he can wrap the bodies up in them eventually. and dispose of them? I don't know, but there's a collection of carpets. We find out later also that there is a wall, the wall to the left of this hallway, along the left of this hallway, somehow connects to an additional basement space that has a meat fridge in it, a full wall freezer like you would see in a garage, but the house is a single story ranch home without a garage and I think on-street parking and no other obvious way to get down into the basement. So this basement has an additional room in it that I never saw the door to. And that I feel like if the kid did see the door to, he would try to possibly go into it. Fucking it's this film. So that's the basement that this kid spends almost the entirety of this film in. Shit happens. His sister is the other main character that's a good person in this. Her dad is a drunk piece of shit who beats the fuck out of them, beats the girl pretty mercilessly in one scene. We never really resolved that point. I think like that dad never really faces up to his alcoholism and child beating. So another spoiler, our kid and his daughter survive, and so does that dad. So, you know, it might just be like, well, you know, you got kidnapped at one time, but I'm still going to beat the shit out of you because I've never really addressed the underlying issues. Dumb. It's a really intense scene too. Like the entire movie theater is like, oh my God. And it's like well acted. The little girl screaming the whole time has no bearing almost whatsoever on the plot. It is as functional to the plot as if he would have just been like, I don't believe that you have magic powers, little girl, because she's also got the fucking Shining. Joe Hill steals everything else from his dad, so I feel like you can just call it the Shining. It doesn't matter. So the little girl's also got the Shining, and she uses the shine in her dreams sometimes to like see stuff, and she has premonitions, and of course, obviously she finds the grabber in her dreams. So that's how the movie ends. It doesn't matter. A lot of other shit happens. She goes around and makes mistakes and blah, 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 and they get over there. Her entire scenes are kind of great. The little girl as an actress is great. I feel like off to the side, maybe, or something. It might have even been in the original. They wrote her as being like a foul-mouthed, kind of a smart aleck person, and she's fun. She's great to see on screen. I wish she would have had more stuff to do. A lot of her is just not being believed and like kind of like in transit. But I feel like so she does a mild investigation, right, during this entire thing. And this is one of my rewrites to it. The kid Finney just has these dead people call him randomly all the time. They just randomly start calling him for no necessary reason. Sometimes they call right before he makes a mistake or something, but usually it's like the scene starts or just right after the scene's initial bit of action, then the phone rings and whatever. The girl the whole time is kind of just bouncing around trying to be like, I don't know if I should tell people about my dreams. What I think would have been better, much better, is if she would have gone around the neighborhood and like given these dead kids more screen time basically, and more not just for like, you know, like, hey, I want you to be in the movie, like just some fucking narrative time to explore like who they are and why they were there, because only 2 of them are people that Finney knew to some degree, and the other 3, I think 2 or 3 are all strangers to him. There's there's one kid, it makes no sense how he gets in that basement, and that's never explained at all. But it would have been better if the girl was going around and like following her senses and discovering clues to find the guy, instead of ultimately she just deuce X's and finds the dude's house. Clues at the places where they were like dropped and stuff. She's shown to be very, you know, investigative, and like she's smart and she's insightful. So like, why not have her be like, well, where did they disappear and what was there? And then she goes and she's like, but did anybody see this black balloon? And if she touches the balloon, then we can do, what is that? The dead zone. We can do the dead zone. And she touches stuff. Maybe he just didn't want to do the dead zone because dad did it first. But we just do the dead zone. She touches shit that they touched before they died, kind of deal. And she gets to like see a little glimpse, a little bit more each time. Like, oh, he wears a mask. Oh, he carries the balloons. Oh, he has a reason for following these people. He drives this van. He uses this thing to knock them out. And if you put all of those things together, you can say, okay, well, he's a person with a balloon in vans could be anything. And we go like arrest like a party clown. The clown's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And do a few more things. Maybe the fucking aerosol is a carpet cleaner, and this guy has a van because he does carpet cleaning, and his stupid abracadabra thing is actually like abracadabra carpet cleaning instead of magic, and he just puts a magnet on the side of it that says like magic and tricks. That could have been completely different. This dude's van is also the most conspicuous van I've ever seen. It looks spray painted black. It's matte black with a chunky paint job and gigantic white letters on the side of it. It's most suspicious van I've ever seen. It's got blacked out windows too, which 1976 wasn't that much different. Like, everybody was still suspicious of stuff. You know, like people would be like, what in the absolute fuck is that black van with abracadabra written on the side of it? Or Alakazam, whatever the hell it has, parked there for, right? People would just notice. This is a neighborhood, a small town where people do not look out their windows at all. And, you know, like, if you compare this to a comparative story where there's something picking off children in a town, It, written by another person I haven't brought up yet in this story, when the kids get picked off, it's because they fall into the sewer. They go underground. So there's no evidence that they were there except for whatever was on them that they might have dropped before they got sucked into the sewer by a fucking murderous demon clown thing. Not a big ass van parked for who knows how long. Minutes? Hours? Several days in a row waiting for a kid to walk behind a fucking Kroger so they could kidnap them? That would be the most conspicuous thing ever. And it would be better if it was just like it really did happen in the 1970s. Cops are incompetent and kind of dumb sometimes, and they just don't connect the dots or ask people questions. They're just like, well, yeah, it was probably, I don't know, Puerto Ricans or something. Definitely not that fella in the black van. You know, you would have put the incompetence factor in there and let the little girl shine. God, it would have been so much more interesting. A lot happens. This movie's fucking long, but nothing happens in most of it. The kid goes through like a hero's journey of totem collection, basically. Very common trope, very common Stephen King thing. He puts stuff together. Each kid gives him a clue on how to beat the bad guy at the end. They're painfully obvious. Some of them seem like red herrings at first, and then when you put them all together at the end, it actually makes sense. Now, if the girl was unlocking these for him by her connection to her brother and also putting this stuff together, it would have felt way more earned, too, by the way. But the things he does specifically are he uses a length of cord to rip down the giant metal grating over the window. So there's a fucking old plate glass window, the kind with the little bottom latch. They're super common where I grew up in Cincinnati. We have basement windows. They don't stop any fucking sound. So I don't know what the hell Ethan Hawke's character is talking about. But it's got one of those, but then behind that is like a 1-inch thick cast iron grating. It's huge. The kid rips it out of the window and it falls to the ground. And I guess because he can't hear him upstairs because no one can hear him, we're just screaming. Blah, 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 blah. The thing crashes to the ground and the kid gets hit by it. But now he's got that grate. Another kid tells him that he tried to dig out through the floor. I think I talked about this in a different movie about how dumb that is. If there's a wall, just tunnel out through the damn wall. But he dug a hole in the floor through the tiles and the guy filled it back in. So the kid digs a hole out of the floor and flushes dirt down a basement toilet. That won't work. That toilet will clog in about 15 or 20 flushes. This kid puts, if I had to guess, just on site, he puts 3 by 3 by 3 by 3. So about 9 cubic feet of dirt down 1970s, 1980s era 4-gallon flush toilet. So that's not going to happen. That toilet's probably on a fucking 3-inch stack. Fucking put into a basement in the 1950s because that guy said the basement was there when he was a kid, so that basement's at least from the 1950s, if not the 1930s or 40s. So that's an ancient toilet in concrete, going in off the house, really low to the ground. I mean, I guess you could do it, but this kid is taking handful after handful and flushing it. The dude should notice that the kid's in there for, I think, a couple weeks. He should notice that his water bill is skyrocketing. House has no pressure. I think, actually, if you were flushing a 4-gallon toilet that much constantly over and over and over again, and you manage to not clog it, which means you have to send a shitload of water through it, because all that dirt just goes blup right here, because it's dirt. It's not even human waste. It's hard, mineral packed, silicate filled detritus. It's rocks and sand and clay. That's what dirt is made out of. Waste is a much more pliant material, and it floats. More importantly, dirt does not float, so just sit there and just build up. And so each subsequent flush will be less powerful, and your line will build up. Now, I know that Joe Hill was not raised a very wealthy kid, so maybe he had a plumber in his family who told him that would work. And he's just a typical blue collar guy. He probably knows more about this than me. Oh my God. Yeah, I know Joe Hill wasn't I know Joe Hill was, he's a rich kid. He doesn't know better. Why would he know how toilets work? That's what fucking filthy people do. Filthy people fix toilets. I just talk about he just flush the dirt down the toilet. It's a genius idea. Just kids at home, flush dirt down your toilets. It'll work super well. The basement toilet too. Oh my God. The kid digs a gigantic fucking hole there, and because he has carpets in that basement, usually the carpets are like the biggest thing that helps this kid get out of this basement, because he sends a string up through one to unlock or to catch around the window to pull it down. He covers up this giant hole that he's dug, and for some fucking reason, he manages to dig a 9 cubic foot hole of dirt with like a broken chunk of tile, I think, as a shovel, and his bare hands. His nails aren't filthy, along with the rest of his clothes, just covered in dirt. Why does the guy not notice that this kid has clearly been digging in dirt? He is not eating anything but scrambled eggs once every 2 days. Somehow has enough calories to continuously dig this fucking gigantic hole. And Ethan Hawke's character just never goes over there and looks. He stands at the bottom of the stairs, and I swear to God, turns around in that direction to look back upstairs. And he just never notices, like, well, after all of this trauma, that kid's just decorating the hallway. Like, were you fucking insane? And then after that, it gets more crazy. One of the last guys, and this dude, okay, so they all talk to him through the phone. Fine. This dude is the biggest of all of the possible kids. And it is never fucking explained for a second how he got into that basement. He is an adult almost. He's like an 18, 19-year-old young man, maybe 17 at best. But he's full grown, motley crew hair, switchblade, violent. He is introduced playing games in a convenience store on an arcade machine, and some kid bumps into him, and they all talk shit like they're gonna fight. And I think that kid pulls a knife on him, or he pulls a knife on that kid. Either way, that kid ends up on the ground with this dude carving numbers into his arm. Now, I know that this is partially a memory, but it has to be based on something. This is the girl sees it in her stupid fucking shining dreams. And that is the address of the house, obviously. So this kid gets arrested by the police, put into a police car. This is his memory of his life, and then driven away in a police car. This is his last memory. It is never said how this turbo asshole, aggro fucking young man who cuts people would just be like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck with black van guy. How is he not in jail if he cut a dude? What in the fuck happened to get this guy into the fucking murder basement and then not fucking get out or fight his way out or anything? It makes no sense at all. Still fun. I'll give it to you. If you're watching right now and you're like, that's not the point. It isn't. I get it. It was still fun. It's Blumhouse. I am at a war with the writing in this because it is unforgivably stupid. And it never pays off, and nothing's ever explained. It always seems like it's going to be, but then just the movie ends, and you're like, oh, well, fuck me, right? This dude's trick that he teaches Finney is he dug through the wall instead of the hole right beneath the wall and got as far as a refrigerator. There's a refrigerator back against that, which I described earlier. So there's another chunk, a compartment of this house that this dude can get to. So for some reason, this house has 2 doors to 2 basements upstairs, and I cannot express this enough. And I know Joe probably didn't go up around 900 square foot single family ranch homes. They're probably strange to him. You know, you could probably fit anything in a house when it's like 3 stories. So this single story ranch home somehow has 2 fucking basements. And I haven't gotten to the most insane part of the house yet. I have not. 2 entrances. It's got 2 basement chunks in it with concrete walls, concrete divider walls between them. So this dude is just pouring concrete while also stealing kids. And I mean, hauling seriously large amounts of concrete into this goddamn basement. And he's managed to wall off an entire chunk of it separated from the rest of it. And it's wired with electricity and everything. So this dude is an extreme handyman also, in addition to everything else. This other area has a full-sized stand-up commercial grade freezer with frozen meat bits in it, right? And they don't even do the cool thing where the frozen meat might be like the kids. It's just like obviously food. The fridge is shut from the other side, but I guess it's like one of those old 1970s fridges that you can't open from the interior, which was a problem back in the day. So that's fair, I guess. I don't care. But how the hell you get down there makes no sense to me. And it is very clearly, by the way, a very subterranean basement. You can see through the window that he is at least 10, 12 feet underground. I don't know exactly how tall Finney is, but it's him and a half to reach the top of the window. Basically, that's why you can't just climb out. You got to jump up to it and then get out. And the latch on the top. I digress. The problem that arises here is that he needs to get into it and open it up, and he gets a big piece of sheet metal off the back. And I'm like, okay, so the herring is that he could get out through there. What he's really going to do is use this big ass piece of sheet metal to, like, I don't know, fuck this guy up or something. Sheet metal can really wreck somebody. But no. All right, we'll get to what he does in a second. So right now, I've got to describe somehow the best and worst character in this. The character is great. I can't remember what the hell his name is, so we're just going to call him Steve. Steve is talking to the police earlier in the film, about midway. They go to him because he calls the police and is like, hey, I have been putting together this board of all of the kids and where they get arrested or where they've been probably grabbed. And I've noticed that if you draw a circle around it, this area right here is kind of in the middle of it. He's got drugs and stuff, even though it's a pretty good idea. And the cops are like, you know, hey, are you from out of town? Like, he's like, yeah, I'm from out of town. I'm visiting my brother. Blah, 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 blah. It is actually good leads. The thing is supposed to be, I guess, a nod to just how bad cops are at their jobs in a general sense. They have the evidence put out right before them, but because a layperson did it, not them, they're buttered about it. It's frighteningly typical even to this day. This guy is the grabber's fucking brother, and the house that the cops were in is the grabber's house. That's the reveal. Let's get into what the grabber does to the kids. The grabber's thing is that he's got these stupid fucking masks, and he gets happy and sad, and so he just waits for the kids to be bad so that he can violently punish them and then murder them. There is some implied gruesome, potentially sexual violence involved in this. but mostly he's just going to whip kids with the belt. And that's what the kids say. All of the kids who have a chance to describe their death only ever say like, oh, you're going to hate what happens. You're going to hate what happens. It's the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing ever. Which, I mean, could be getting killed, and it could be anything. And it's not one of those cases where it's like, sometimes the best horror is left to your imagination. No, shut up. Fuck you. I paid to watch a movie about a goddamn serial killer who wears black masks and keeps kids in a phone or a basement with a pointless fucking phone, and it's Ethan Hawke. I want to know what the fuck he does to them. Why not? That's why I watch serial killer shit. I know everything about what John Wayne Gacy did. Everything. The fuck? Tell her the worst thing that could ever happen. The worst thing. Imply something. Show something. I think it is implied to be like a table that he straps you down to or something. And like one of the kids, all the kids have like marks from where they were killed, but they also are not like severe wounds. They're nasty, but they're not like fatal. I won't get into it too much. And they're all fully clothed, and a lot of the wounds are through their clothing. So I don't know what's implied, but or what actually could have even possibly been done to them. But the implication work is still insufficient. Ultimately, like it's just like, what are you getting at? Like I don't understand. There's nothing about the grabber as a character that even implies what he might do with somebody. The best version of this, implied without ever being shown, is in 7. Hands down, the best. The lust scene shows 3 things. The first is the discovery of the body, and they never show the body. The guys are just like, I can't believe I just saw that. That's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. Fair. All right. We're at the best that Black Phone gets to. The next thing you see is the guy that was forced to kill the lust person, who is just broken down completely and is just like, he made me fuck her. He made me use it. He made me fuck her. And it's you feel bad for this guy. And you're like, what in the fuck? This dude is fucked up. And then for the briefest second, they say, you made this piece here. And he's like, yeah. And they say, like, is this it? And they show what he was wearing when it happened. And it is a nightmare strap-on made of stainless steel barbs and leather. And it's like fucking 1.5 foot long. And it's on and done. The implications are full. I didn't need to see anything in motion. It haunts me to this day. And the effect of it is far superior than if I would have just seen this person being ripped apart by it. That is fucking good shit. That is fucking perfect. David Fincher. The man. The fucking man. All right, Mr. Green Tent, a king. They just don't ever do anything like this. The closest you get in Black Phone is one of the kids warns him not to go upstairs, because if you go upstairs and the door's unlocked, that's when you're a bad boy, and he starts to punish you, and it gets creepy. And there is a lot that I don't like about the way that this dude is with the kids. Now, psycho or sexual sadism and violent murder is not like uncommon between or between homosexual men, or committed by a homosexual man against younger people. I mean, it happens. Generally, it's not the most common way for a serial killer to operate. Most serial killers tend to be middle-aged white men, or middle-aged majority population men in wherever they live. And committing violence against at-risk women or at-risk youth type people. These are not at-risk people. Well, maybe they are to a degree, but still, like, there's something about the way that Ethan Hawke does it where the perversion that the mask guy is kind of like, that's causing him to do this. There's a little bit of an implication that he's got this like sissy side to him, and this like mask side to him that's kind of, I don't know, it seems a little Buffalo Bill to me. He puts on that Michael Jordan. He puts on that Michael Jackson voice that's kind of like, I would never hurt you. I would never hurt you. Then he gets upset. He's like, I don't know why you lied to me. And it's trying to this Janusian fucking double side of the coin type deal, but it's not really done very well. And it does seem a little, I don't know. I would have rather you just said like he just hates that he feels gay and is murdering people than like whatever the hell sort of like PG-13 version of this villain is. He's just weird. So when this guy sits at the top of the stairs waiting for the kids to break the rule of leaving, he's got his frowny mask on and he sits there shirtless. Shout out to Ethan Hawke, by the way. He is fucking a thick boy in this film. He is like, his pecs are fucking huge. And he's just a sweaty hog man up there in his fucking like leather pants with a big ass belt laid across his lap, sitting in just the kitchen of this house, staring at the thing. And one of the major plot points of this is the kid almost gets out at one point. He can't, because even though he gets past this dude, because the guy falls asleep for hours. He waits for hours until the guy falls asleep. And like he kind of like waits and like tries to like feel it out. Then he goes upstairs and he unlocks this padlock with this so one of the kids that gets kidnapped, it's the paper boy, and the paper boy gets kidnapped and murdered, obviously. And his thing is like, the guy, I almost got out, but he took my bike lock from me and locked the front door with it. I'm like, what? So the kid, Finney, runs out of the house, gets past the dude while he's sleeping and runs out of the house, gets to the front door. And the front door is locked with a padlock. There's a little latch clicked inside. Now, at this point, we don't yet know that the killer is the Steven or Eddie's brother, whatever the hell I call that guy. So the kid runs down the street yelling. The guy tears ass out of his house in a black van in like the middle of the night, mid-morning, and tackles the kid and puts a knife to his throat. He's like, I'll slit your throat if you scream at all. Like, you'll just fucking die out here. Which is okay. But nobody, like, not even a single light turns on. Like, nothing at all. Like, fair enough. But Jesus Christ. I mean, I guess the neighborhood's empty. You could have said something about the bad neighbors. It's just strange. But here's the most important part of that. The most important. The most critical. The fucking brother lives there. He lives there. He's staying in town for a while. That's why he is at the house. Why does he not notice how weird that there's a fucking basement in there? Maybe 2 basements? How has he never noticed his brother being the weirdest fucking guy of all time? When is his brother sure that he can go in and out of this house that has a garage? The garage is on the top floor. I know that the garage is on the top floor because that's where he parks the fucking van. He drives the van out of the garage. The van is super creepy. And his brother is always filling up balloons and has these masks around. He just doesn't notice any of it. And, I guess there are people that haven't noticed anything. But in the case of the brother, it's not like he's ignoring the obvious signs. He's looking for the killer. He's about it. He's on cocaine, which makes you a paranoid fucking mess. If I was yacked up in 1976 and I thought there was a serial killer in my neighborhood and I drew a fucking map out and circled it in the house I was living in with my brother, who gets in a black van and disappears all the time, and sometimes he's walking around, he's got these fucking masks I've noticed, and he's got a basement I'm not allowed to go into, and sometimes he talks to me like fucking Michael Jackson in this little creepy whisper voice, I would be a degree of suspicious a little bit before what inevitably happens, and he's just like, gets his fucking head chopped in half by the brother. It just happens. The kid yells for help, or he goes down there, and it is what it is. He gets killed. It's so stupid. It's dumb. This is near the end of the film. All of this shit takes forever to get to, by the way. More to the point, the cops went to a house where a guy was saying, I think I know who the serial killer is. I am yacked up on drugs. On this map, right here where the circle is, you may notice that is the neighborhood you're in. All right, I know you're the worst cops ever. Ignore, most importantly, however, the fact that when you come into my house, there's a fucking latch, a fucking hook and clasp latch with a goddamn bike lock on it that locks from the fucking inside. What the fuck? What in the fuck, dude? Does he leave it off the door when his brother is like there? Just completely uninstall it? I mean, that should be like a sign. Like, if Fincher made this film, it would be a fucking shit show. It would be the wildest thing you'd ever seen in your life. Like, that would be a detail. You have to notice it. You have to notice it. Dumb as shit. We get to the escape. The kid is getting challenged, and then the guy comes down and chops the dude's head in half. And when he walks in the door, the kid is already set up for the final showdown. His little friend teaches him how to throw a punch by filling the phone, the plastic phone, with dirt to make it heavier, which, by the way, implies that it is clay and sand, heavy clay and sand, dirt. So it's going to actually pack in enough to like make the phone weigh, I don't know, a pound or two. I wouldn't hit him with the phone. I mean, I guess maybe if it's a really old metal casing phone, but I think it's plastic. I'm pretty sure all the hang-up noises are plastic on plastic, so it's a plastic phone. It unscrews, he takes some of the wiring out, plugs it in, rips it, cuts it in half off the wall, and hides it. So he's going to hit this dude with it. Whatever. The best way to do that, by the way, is to not hit the person with the phone, because that is going to fuck your leverage. Just so you know. Just so you know if you ever need to get out there and hurt somebody, because you've been locked in a basement and you're trying to escape. That phone, I would have to see some serious proof that phone is going to give you enough momentum and fulcrum and withstand the impact hard enough to make it a really good sap. I guess it could if it's really good, but I've touched so many phones. If you made the strongest payphone receivers are some of the strongest ones in the business, right? From back in the 90s. If I still ripped that off and packed it with maybe even like a full 5-pound weight at it, I would still not really trust that to withstand a hit and be held in your hand in a way where you could really get that brick off. I mean, I won't test it on myself, but the better way to do that is to definitely fill up both ends and then hold the receiver in your hand and then let that extra weight carry into your knuckles like you're holding like a roll of quarters, which I think is what you're supposed to do. But in the thing, he holds it so that like the little earpiece and the mouth receiver are like forward, and he kind of like does like a clubbing thing. I don't know. Anyway, they practice like that. It's a little Karate Kid sequence, which again, Ralph Macchio, that little kid, is just doing like the Karate Kid. Step, step, punch, step back, punch. I don't understand the feint that he's teaching him. I mean, I guess it's a feint. His first boxing class, he steps forward, steps back, steps forward, punch. Ha, 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 punch. Which, okay, all right. I mean, your punch, Finney is like fucking 5'2", and I think Ethan Hawke is like 6 foot something or other. He's got a head and a half on him, so that's a reach, first off. So I don't know if I would, just as another thing, I don't know if I would ever bother with a feint if I'm going to try to get a surprise attack on an adult, especially if I'm not like really good at putting another feint in there. Don't plan to dodge first if you're in a fight. Because that is going to get you thinking that you're going to like get swung at first. I don't know. Just hit him as hard as you can. If you're going to hit somebody that doesn't know you're going to hit somebody, don't let them know. Just don't even tell them about it. Don't feint. Don't put your hands up. Literally, you're in a great position if you guys don't know anything about boxing and you're throwing one weighted haymaker. Get in there and do the whole goddamn what's his name and just twist your entire upper torso into your pec and into your serratus muscles and snap your entire hips left and just try to get that whole weight of your hand. You don't even have to try to make it a really good hit. Don't even worry about two knuckles. You probably only got one of these in you. Dempsey, it's a Dempsey roll. Dempsey roll that guy as hard as you can in his chin. Don't punch him in the head. Hit his chin or his cheek. Aim for the lowest, closest part of him, which is the best that you can do. And if you get him with that, a Dempsey roll, I don't care if you weigh $130 and you're hitting me 275. You Dempsey roll me with a handful of heavy phone, weighted and catch me in my chin, I'm taking a nap. It doesn't matter who you are. I could hit friggin' the heavyweight champion of the world, whoever it is right now. If they don't see it coming, they would agree with me. As hard as I can, full Dempsey roll haymaker, blop, your entire body weight into it off of a weighted punch, a cheat glove, it's a win. But if I go, and then I try like an overhand right, like, are you out of your mind? Kid, you weigh 145 pounds, you weigh $180, and this dude has got 40, 50 pounds on you, and you've never hit somebody with an overhand right before? My man, that's a hard game to play. It's a good punch. It's a great punch. It's not the punch you're looking for, my man. It's just overhand right him. I learned everything I know about boxing from Mike Tyson's Punch Out. This is what that technique said. So the guy gets chopped in the head, and he's like, well, now I'm going to kill you, kid. So the grabber chases him. He's got an axe, and the kid runs and jumps over a carpet that the grabber never saw. He falls in there. Okay, that's the hole. He steps, his ankle lands on the grating, and that snaps his ankle and fucks him up, right? Which is cool. I guess it's a deadfall trap. It probably would work. It could work if it's set up the right way. I don't know. I took a lot of classes on traps when I was in the Marines. That is not one of the ones that I remember. Honestly, he would have been better off keeping that grating behind the wall if you thought that dude was going to fall in there. You're probably going to fucking break your leg falling into a 3-foot hole without noticing, or at least stun yourself pretty significantly. I've fallen in holes in the dark on patrol in Iraq before. It's not fun. I never broke my leg though. I know people that did. I know people that broke ankles and stuff. So 50-50. Just a few, little ankle rollers. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, maybe that's an actual trap. But I think what have also worked is just jump over that, know that guy's going to fall into it, or hope he does. And then once he falls in, just take that heavy ass 80-pound grate and literally just start beating his ass to death with it. Fuck a whole Dempsey roll. And nobody's skull holds up to 20, 30 pounds of stainless steel grating just smashing down into it again and again. You can't even block that. I could get my hand in front of like a really good punch. If I get my arm in front of, some of the strongest punches in the world, like it might break it. It would definitely hurt. Like it might disable my arm, but I could at least stop it. If you start hitting somebody in the head with 30 pounds of steel, that's done. Like it's going through your arm. This dude's not using a lot of effort. You don't have to aim. It's like 1.5 feet wide by 2 feet. You got a lot of reach too. You can't even get your wrist. He's got to reach past the whole grating. And all the whole time you just pink, pink, pink. That's the best thing about weapons. The longer they are, the more effective they are. I digress. So this kid, he gets him in there and then he punches him in the face with this thing a few times. And he gets grabbed. He pulls the dude's mask off, of course, like everybody that's ever worn a mask or is protective of their face in any kind of media ever since the history of mankind. The guy freaks out. He completely loses his mind and pisses his pants and screams. And then the kid starts punching him in the face. And then the kid does, he knocks the guy out a little bit. And then the kid does the dumbest thing I think he could do, which is like jump over the top of him sort of, and then strangle him with the cord of the phone. Effective, but dangerous. Just as a general thing. He still had that piece of sheet metal. And also, this dude dropped a full-ass wood axe. 3.5 foot, 5-pound head, splitting ass, wood chopping axe. It is functionally able to cut a human head in half. We have witnessed this. Way better way to go. Just, dude, 3.5 feet away. Perfect. Instead, he gets in the danger zone, wraps this dude up with a little garrote, and does his little, I'm going to choke him to death. Whatever. I wouldn't do that with a thin corded thing like that. I mean, it'll work, but I think it's implied that he's air choking him, which is just doesn't happen. And then they do he does the Hollywood pacha and snaps the dude's neck or whatever the fuck. I don't. And he does the East Asian kid gets to do the he says, you got one hell of an arm, and that's the, and he breaks the dude's windpipe, neck, throat. I don't know. By the way, even if he broke his windpipe, that dude still got a good 2.5 minutes. Like a good 2.5 minutes. Like, he could still get up and kill the shit out of you, kid. I don't know what the hell's going on. And then the point of the hole in the wall is that the dude has a gigantic ass dog, which is he's a cute. The dog's a sweetheart. I would have just been friends with the dog. I'd been like, me and that dog are cool. But the kid sees the axe, and then he's like, oh no, I don't have to use the axe on the dog that's kind of like chained to the wall but still guarding the way out. And he tosses him some of the thawed steaks from that refrigerator, which nobody has smelled. Thawing, just a bunch of thawing raw meat in there in a hole in the wall that nobody noticed. Maybe he puts one of those carpets over it. I don't know. But that's pretty much the end of the movie. He goes upstairs, and they find out that the house that the girl was leading the cops to is the one that's across the street where the bodies are buried. All right, whatever. Final things about this film. I actually had a good time watching it, right? And I had a better time talking shit about it afterwards. So, it's always out there for you. I wouldn't say it's so bad it's good. It's so fun because of the performances and how stupid it is at times that it's easy to overlook all of the just absolute senseless dog shit. It's like a McDonald's. It's like a McDonald's double cheeseburger, right? If you get it and you eat it and you don't think about it too much, especially if you're drunk or high, best shit ever. McDonald's cheeseburger. Anything written by Joe Hill. Am I impaired at the moment? Am I half blind? Am I just in a kind of like a happy place where, I just don't really give a fuck? Fuck yeah. All right, whatever. It's like, it's Stephen King late. So it was okay. I kind of enjoyed it, while I was watching it until towards the end. It seriously drug in parts. And then toward the end, it was just stupid as fuck. And we were like, what are you talking about? Like people in the theaters like, what? What? Like out loud, what? How are the cops this dumb? Like, nobody can be that dumb. And there's stuff I even still didn't probably mention that anybody else that saw this probably will. Should you go see it? Sure, why not? Go watch it in a movie theater. You might have a pretty good time. Catch it whenever. My final grades for just like the construction of it. Shot for shot, it's a Blumhouse film. It's okay. 8 out of 10, like every Blumhouse film. They've got a few cinematographers over there that are just allowed to do work, right? I would say there's no directorial vision in the camera at all, probably. So the camera guys just know what shot is going to be a good shot. They follow the storyboards, and then it's just straightforward, Close, medium, a little bit of establishing. Not a lot you can do with the sets on hand. It's like schools, schoolyards, and that shitty basement. The one or two shots I thought they would do with the basement, they did do. Kind of use the single light that's coming in through the window. Not a Stark stuff. I mean, there's unironically a lot you can do. What the things that you can do with a camera and 3 lights in any room on Earth are functionally fucking unlimited. If you have a good lighting person or just anybody that understands light, just have somebody that went to a museum twice in their life. Just 2 decent museums that have like a little bit of fucking Baroque painting, some fucking contemporary masters, and they'll be like, oh, if I can just do that, I can just do that. It's fine. It'll be you'll smash it out of the park. Blumhouse is fine. Not a lot of shots that I can really remember being cool. Nothing impressive. Editing, perfectly good. Sufficient. I don't really think there's not much you need to do with editing in this. Effects are minimal to non-existent. There was one head chop. Looked good. Looked great. Looked fine. Can't really remember it. I think it might have been quick. Might have been on screen. I think I saw his head fall in half. I think it was CG, but then they dropped it right out of frame. Like a little bit of a mix of like CG and practical. Good. Sounds fine. Pretty decent. Start to finish, it's good. Blumhouse is a solid production studio, so they're Foley people. Got this, probably cracked it out in a few weeks, sent it on. Perfectly fine. There's nothing really interesting to hear anyway. It's all suburban noises, so you can make this entire soundtrack with shit you got in your kitchen. Soundtrack was not great. I don't know why. I don't care why. It was just didn't like it. It's too samey, a little bland, and pointless. Oh, and also fucking Blumhouse. I do hold this strictly. This is one of the reasons I hate this film a little bit more than maybe some other people. The jump scares in this movie are unearned and excessive in theaters. And I mean to the point where even people I know who are like, I don't mind a jump scare in a movie, were like, that was fucking unacceptable. We watched this in just at a fucking Cinemark, a mall Cinemark, which is not going to be the best audio you've ever heard in your life, or even super loud. Like the entire thing was, mastered to 0, but mastered sub is 0. So it just sounded like this, like me talking. And the jump scares, there's 2 of them I definitely remember. I don't even know what hell happened in the scenes, but it's just like somebody walking in. Full blast, unintelligible noise, max to 0. Like literally the fucking entire theater was shaking. It scared the bejesus out of me because I live in America in 2022 and there is just terrorism and guns everywhere, all right? Like, I am a fucking PTSD-addled veteran. That is just too fucking much. It's just absolutely fucking unnecessary. And it also wasn't at a good jump scare moment. Like a good jump scare is the first drop in a roller coaster. All right. When the roller coaster finally overcomes the upward inertia, or like the stationary inertia sitting at the top of the hill and just goes, woof. That's the jump scare. You know what I'm saying? All of the lead up to that, the click, 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 is what earns it. And this movie does not do a good job of maintaining any sense of peril or unease. Most of that is because, like I said, what the guy is going to do to these kids is never explained. It's usually just a lot of, it's the worst thing you could think of. It's the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing you could think of, which is just fucking lazy as far as I'm concerned at this point. And there's no moments really where the kid is clearly working against time or being very sneaky in a way where, like, I know, he could potentially be caught in a sensible way. And they just do a bad job of it. Even when he's sneaking out of the house, literally past the guy while he's asleep, which was the most uproarious part of the film for the theater. The audience behind me, there was this one dude who was just like, just run. And then his girl that he was with goes, no, stab him. And he said, no, bitch, you just fucking run. Just fucking go. Fuck a knife. And the thing is also, in that scene, earlier, you are shown that there is a door behind Ethan Hawke where he sits, and the front door is to the right. And the kid doesn't try to go out the door behind him. And I don't know if it's supposed to be assumed that there's just another bike lock on that door, or that it doesn't really go outside, but he just doesn't use it. A better films would have taken much more liberties with that scene, but it's just him sneaking, and he's going to solve the damn thing, because that's the point, is that he solves the puzzle on that. The fucking bike lock password is given to him without a clear indication of where the numbers are. So, it's whatever. But that whole scene is just done. It could have been a lot of stuff, but it really just wasn't. And it's kind of disappointing. So I'll say ultimately, kind of in closing with that, the writing is terrible. It's fun. It's a fun movie. I would only see it in theaters or with people. If you're alone, you might spend too much time thinking about it. I mean, we didn't even get out into the hall of the movie before we were all like, wow, I kind of enjoyed that. The performances were great. And then we just started picking it apart. And it wasn't even all me. I was like, my people I was with were mentioning things too that I didn't even think of in the moment. And you probably would have worked your way to after a couple seconds, and vice versa for them. And we were all just like, oh, wait, yeah, that doesn't make sense. And like, what about this? And like, yeah, that's fucking stupid. And then why did they make that decision? I don't fucking know. How about those goddamn jump scares? The worst fucking jump scares on earth. But ultimately, I would say, hey, fuck it. It's a Blumhouse movie. If you've seen a Blumhouse film, that's not one of their better ones. Any one of the mid Blumhouse movies, Black Phone is mid. It's mid. It's okay. You'll probably enjoy it. Mid, high mid for enjoyability. And check it out.